Good evening, my friends. This is Santa Claus on this September 10th, 2025, coming to you with today's news from around our beautiful world. On this historic day, when we remember John the Fearless who fell at Montereau so many centuries ago, I bring you tidings both concerning and hopeful. Oh my, there's quite a situation developing in the Middle East that troubles my heart deeply. Israel has conducted a strike on Qatari soil that has sent ripples of concern throughout the Gulf region. A Qatari security officer, Bader Saad al-Humaidi al-Dosari, lost his life, the first Gulf Arab killed by Israel in decades. This has led many in the region to question their security partnerships, especially with the United States. As the former President Trump noted, it's not a good situation, and indeed, the way this unfolded brings sorrow to all who yearn for peace. My heart goes out to all families affected by violence, regardless of where they call home. Now, turning our gaze to Eastern Europe, where Poland has experienced a most concerning development. Polish and Allied fighter jets had to intercept drones entering Polish airspace, making Poland the first NATO member to fire during the Ukraine war. A poor pensioner named Tomasz Wesolowski found his house badly damaged when one of these drones crashed into it. Just imagine, dear friends, sitting peacefully watching television only to have your roof destroyed in an instant. While Russia denies responsibility, this reminds us how conflicts can spill over boundaries and affect innocent bystanders. Let us pray for Mr. Wesolowski and all who live near these troubled borders. Meanwhile, across the globe in Australia, they're investing over $1 billion in underwater drones called ghost sharks to patrol their waters. These remarkable vessels will conduct surveillance far from Australian shores beginning early next year. While I wish such expenditures weren't necessary in our world, I understand nations must protect their people and waters. If only we could redirect such resources toward feeding the hungry and housing the homeless. Let us pause for a moment and reflect on the situation in Nepal, where my heart is especially heavy. 25 precious souls have been lost in protests against corruption, with hundreds more injured. The young people, called Generation Z, are standing up for better governance and economic opportunities. They've even suggested former Chief Justice Sushila Karki as interim prime minister after the current leader resigned. How inspiring to see youth so engaged in building a better society, though I wish it hadn't come at such a terrible cost of life. In Brazil, the Supreme Court is considering the case against former President Jair Bolsonaro, with one judge voting to annul proceedings due to jurisdictional concerns. This has created tension in a nation already divided, with supporters of Mr. Bolsonaro taking to the streets in protest. No matter our political views, dear friends, we must remember that peaceful dialogue and respect for democratic institutions are the cornerstones of a harmonious society. On a more promising note, the UN's atomic watchdog has reached an agreement with Iran that will provide access to all of Iran's nuclear facilities. As the IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi noted, this agreement has profound significance despite its technical nature. Every step toward transparency and cooperation brings us closer to a more peaceful world. In France, President Macron has appointed 39-year-old Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu as the new Prime Minister, the fifth in less than 2 years. Young Mr. Lecornu now faces the challenge of working with a divided parliament to adopt a budget. Let us hope he finds the wisdom and collaborative spirit needed in these challenging times. On the economic front in America, there's a glimmer of good news as producer prices unexpectedly fell in August. This suggests inflation is cooling, which might help the Federal Reserve decide to lower interest rates next week. Lower costs can be a blessing for families struggling to make ends meet, though we must always be mindful of those who still don't have enough to put food on the table. Speaking of nourishment, UNICEF has released a most concerning report showing that obesity has now surpassed undernourishment among school-aged children globally. This marks the first time in history that obesity exceeds underweight as the leading form of malnutrition among children aged 5 to 19. While it's wonderful that fewer children are underweight than in the past, this new challenge reminds us that proper nutrition and healthy habits are essential gifts we must give to our young ones. As we close tonight, I encourage each of you, my dear friends, to look beyond the headlines to the human stories behind them. In every conflict, every policy decision, and every economic trend, there are real people with hopes and dreams just like yours. Let us treat one another with kindness, seek understanding across our differences, and remember that even small acts of generosity can bring light to a sometimes darkened world. Until tomorrow, this is Santa Claus wishing you peace, love, and goodwill to all.